Hello, everybody. Please welcome Laura. Hi, Laura. Thank you for coming on to our podcast.
Absolutely. Ivy, thank you so much for having me. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. So I am the founder, owner, and lead coach of Strength and Shield Coaching. I am a West Point graduate, Afghanistan veteran, former Army officer, currently a clarity coach, leadership trainer, and I am obviously a health coach as a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. And that's what I do with Strength and Shield Coaching as the founder and the lead coach. So I work specifically with high-performing health-conscious women who want to get their lives back. So what that means is that they're exhausted, they're tired of being tired, they have some health stuff that's going on, they're low energy, or they're tired all the time, or they have chronic pain or chronic headaches, or just some things that are uncomfortable where they're not showing up in their lives as themselves. And so I come in and investigate what are the root causes of those symptoms. So if they were to go to a medical professional who might say something like, your labs all look normal, or there's nothing wrong with you. I know that was my experience where I didn't really feel heard or listened to. And they might prescribe a medication that, here, this will take care of that symptom, but it doesn't necessarily take care of what's causing the symptom. So I come in with functional lab testing. It's a very scientific, systematic process where I investigate the root cause of the symptoms that this high-performing, health-conscious woman is experiencing. And then I develop a customized protocol for her so that she can have exuberant energy and show up in her life as herself, as her best self. And that's really what helps her to get her life back, so that she can be present in her life and do all the awesomeness that she's capable of in a way that is aligned for her.
Laura, my name is Dan. It's great to meet you. I'm going to be getting to know you along with our audience as we ask you questions. The reason we invited you on our podcast is because we like to give our listeners access to people that they may never come across in life. And we want to bring on a wide variety of people from all different backgrounds. You and I have some things in common. And there's at least one time a year where we're not on the same team.
Oh.
Guess what it is?
Beat Navy.
Yes.
I just want you to know that's a salutation. That's an expression of condolence. I mean, whatever the situation is. So I'm not just a West Point graduate. I'm the daughter of a West Point graduate. I'm the granddaughter of a West Point graduate. My sister married a West Point graduate. My godson is a plebe right now. So I've been saying beat Navy as like I'm so sorry, your dog died. Beat Navy. Or like, how's your day today? Hey, beat Navy. I mean, so Dan, I hope we can still be friends.
Yeah, you went through a long dry spell for a while. So I did not go. I did not go to the Naval Academy. My two brothers went there though, and I was ready to go there, but I was not ready to take on the discipline of what the military would provide. But I did work for the CIA as a polygraph examiner, so I've faced down some of the same people you faced down in Afghanistan. Yeah. So there's a lot of things you said which I aligned with, and I was like, this woman's awesome. So I'm excited to ask you questions and get to know you a little bit tonight. So I'm going to ask you a question that you told me not to ask you, but I'm going to give you some rules around it because that's what I like to do. Okay. Solid. So every time Ivy and we're coaches like you. And when we coach people, reason we ask this question, I'll tell you the reasoning behind it, is because we like to discover in people if there is a dormant wish, desire, thing that they once said, oh my gosh, I totally want to be. Maybe it's like an astronaut. Like it sounded like you went to flight school. So maybe you're like, I want to be an astronaut. But you're like, no, it's too hard. It's too many steps. Like, why even try? Or maybe it was something you started out trying for and like didn't work out. And you're like, I don't want to keep trying. Like, I'm going to stop here. So this is like the wish, because the genie could ask you a wish and it could be granted without having to do anything more. So if I was a genie, could grant you one wish. But here's the rules. You can't ask for more wishes. That's cheating. You can't ask to become the genie or the wish giver. So what would be the wish? Top of mind, what jumps into your mind right now?
I would meet my husband sooner.
Why? Why do you want to meet him sooner?
So this is hard because I don't believe in regret. Just like a failure can be reframed as a learning experience, and I choose I believe optimal is possible. And so I choose the reframe consciously. So there's an aspect of regret there that, oh, I wish I had done something differently. My husband and I have been married for coming up on 10 years, maybe 9 years. I feel like I should know this. We were married on New Year's Eve, and that has messed me up like from day one. I'm like, so we were married in 2011. So are we coming up on our 9th anniversary or 10th? Like, what's going on here? Never get married that's my advice to you. Never get married on the last day of the calendar year or the tax year. Also problematic. But I think it conveys like I have regret about the earlier years in my life, and I'm uncomfortable with that. But that being said, he is the love of my life. He's this amazing human, and he's just awesome sauce, and he's kind, and he's got this amazing work ethic and this tremendous ability to focus that I don't have. And he has so many traits that I admire. He's loyal, he's honest, like really honest, and I love so much about him. He's my favorite person to hang out with. And I know that my early adulthood would have been a lot more joy filled if I had spent it with him. So, but I'll take the 10 years that I've gotten with him so far. But if that is the first thing that came to mind as you were describing that, is like, I would spend more time with my husband. I wish I'd met him sooner.
Love the answer. And I'm glad I asked it to you. See, isn't that great to answer the question? I love just that pops in your mind. That's awesome. But when you said getting married on New Year's Eve, 2 things jumped out. One is my father was born on New Year's Day. So his parents didn't get to take advantage of the tax credit from the year before. So parents actually are wishing you were born a day earlier. So that's an advantage. And I wonder, as a married couple, can you take advantage of like filing jointly if you get married on New Year's, so for the whole year, even if it's just the last day of the year? And then my daughter was born on Christmas Day. One of my daughters, I have 3 daughters. And we were just talking about this because her travel soccer team, so she plays in the year she's born. And I'm like, you're the youngest on your team, unless there's a person born this 26th through the 31st. So no, that just popped in my head when you were talking about the years. Awesome answer to the Genie question. Thank you for answering.
Thank you. Does she get double presents? This is important. Does she get birthday presents and Christmas presents?
So I have 4 children, and I've come up with what I feel is a good system. Yeah. And I also think it's teaching them responsibility for budgeting. So it used to be like, like trying to say, like, is it fair, the amount of presents people get if one thing wants more expensive things? So we literally created budgets. All my kids are old enough now that we create budgets where they can literally like create their list, and then we can go off the list. So they're all getting similar budgets. So she gets her birthday and Christmas budget at the same time.
Oh, that's genius.
Right? Yeah.
Very well done.
At least she can feel
I'm
it's
impressed
fair,
by that.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
Good
you.
stuff.
So as you were sharing about your answer, my parents were married also on the same day as you.
No way.
Yeah.
These are like connections upon connections. I'm so glad that we met each other.
My birthday is the 23rd, and my sister's birthday is July 3rd. And so around the holidays, both holidays, our birthdays never really got celebrated. My parents felt really bad. So the way they compensated is they would take us on trips. They're like, forget the presents. We're just going to take you on a trip. We're so sorry. There's no party. Everybody's away. Everybody's off school. No double presents, but we went on a lot of trips, and that's how they made it up to us.
That's awesome.
It was just really, really funny to hear you share that you married the day before New Year's. And I got curious, like, where did you meet him?
So we met. So if there are West Point graduates who are listening, they know about the Department of Physical Education, the department with a heart. We're very loving. We used past tense. I obviously don't teach there anymore. But we use the physical domain, so physical fitness, physical challenges, team sports as a microcosm to teach mental toughness and leadership, organizational leadership, along with personal leadership. And so Dan, my husband, is also named Dan. A great name. Dan and I met on the faculty in the Department of Physical Education. We met on the 3rd floor of Arvin Cadet Physical Development Center in June of 2010. We walked past each other in the hall. Our respective other people that we were with introduced us, and he's just dreamy, honestly. But he walked away and he gave me the look back, right? You can tell, like, he looked back and he smiled at me, and he has the most beautiful smile. He just like lit up the whole hallway, and I was like, oh, I'm done. And then a friend of ours, their little office alcove would have lunch together. And so a mutual friend of ours started inviting me to their office lunches. And of course she arranged it. Andy Stroh, I love you forever if you're listening, because she just arranged for us to meet. And so she would always set it up so that we were sitting next to each other. And of course, conversation would go on and Dan and I would end up talking to each other. And so finally he asked me out. We had our first date right after the Army Air Force game. In November of 2010. So I have some great memories of the Army Air Force game as well. And the rest, as we say, is history. We dated for several months before we introduced him to my children. And then it was just as a friend. And then he formally asked the kids if they would be okay if he took me on a date. We've been dating like 6 months. By this time, we knew we were pretty serious. And they were like, oh my gosh, yes, we love you, we love you, we love you. But he's wonderful.
Oh, I love that story. It warms my heart. Such a great story. And you speak so highly of your husband. I like to see that because I really believe that women are the anchor to making a man as well. I mean, it takes two to tango, but
yeah, we support each other. That mutual respect. It's so important.
So besides your husband, who else made the most impact in your life that made you the person who you are today?
My parents. And I say both of them. My parents are very different, and I am totally a blend of both of them. My mom is very outgoing, very energetic, definitely extroverted, with this incredible heart. My mom is retired now, but was a career cancer nurse. And so she cared for people who were in the terminal phases of cancer. Her specialty or area of expertise was end of life care. And so she did a lot of counseling with families. And when you think about the type of person who cares so much and invests herself emotionally in the care of someone as they are passing on, and then being part of the counseling for the families, I mean, that's a woman with a huge, huge heart. So she's this combination of energy and, outgoing, she's the dancer, she's the life of the party, she's social butterfly. And then she also has this side of her that she's hugely empathetic, really nurturing and caring, and would take the shirt off her back for you. I mean, just really cares about people. And it's amazing to see. She's an amazing human being. She has this incredible spirit and huge heart. My dad, who I affectionately refer to as Da, is more quiet and reserved until he's around my mom. And then his, little mini extrovert comes out. So he's very quiet and reserved. He's more the academic. My mom is more the hands-on doer. My dad is an academic. He's a PhD. He was reading my papers lovingly, like not like in a harsh way, in like 4th grade. So any of my written work, he was reviewing. I would go with him when he would lead staff rides to Gettysburg and to Chancellorsville. He's a career military historian, career military officer, 24 years on active duty in the Army. He's a running cadence. He's an airborne ranger, Vietnam vet, like paratrooper, all of the things, combat infantryman. And he has this like rock solidness about him, but he's also this incredible mentor, and he is a pure idealist. He is an optimist about people, even when they have shown him that they are not worthy of his praise, his trust, or his idealism. And so that combination of like the nerdy, quiet academic who teaches and learns and learns and teaches, with the steel and the discipline of the military man, combined with this super fun, big heart personality that was my mom, I was very heavily influenced by them both. And I'm so grateful to them for that. I mean, it feels a little cliche. Most people are influenced by their parents, but not always in tremendously positive ways. And I am incredibly blessed to have been so loved by such awesome parents. I'll tell you a quick story. I had a baby as a cadet. So my son I had while I was a first year at West Point. So I am actually class of 2000, but I graduated with the class of 2001. Army Navy is coming up. I actually marched on to Army Navy pregnant with Michael, even though I didn't know it yet. I found out the Monday after Army Navy. So I, make it through termins. I'm this, I'm a basket case. What am I going to do? I'm a first year at West Point. I knew that I was going to have my baby. My sister was incredible. She's another human being that is like amazing. This huge heart, incredible person. I'm surrounded by incredible people. This is fantastic. So, she was part of that, process for me. She was the only one who knew for a long time until I went home. She came with me to tell my parents that I was pregnant, obviously out of wedlock at West Point. At the time, I was the cadet in charge of the Catholic club. So you want to talk about scandal. I was a cadet battalion commander, so I was in a high visibility role. I mean, it was just, it could have been the end of the world. But my sister, who prior to that had had 4 miscarriages, came with me to tell my parents that her punk little sister got pregnant unexpectedly. Like, you want to talk about love. And then she was there in the delivery room with me. I mean, this huge love, crazy huge love. And she's shorter than me. I don't know how she fits it all in. There's so much love into this, squat body. So my parents responded in this incredibly loving way. We told them separately. And so my mom, being what my mom is like, when we told her that I was going to have a baby, she comes over and she's like kissing me all over, and she's like squeezy hugs, and she's like, it's going to be okay. We're going to take care of you. It's going to be all right. We're so proud of you for the decisions that you've made, and you're so loved, and you're so loved, and you're so loved. And then my dad, different response. So now the 3 of us have sat him down. He came home from work. So he's now, quiet. We got him a Diet Coke, like we're, we were sort of buttering him up a little bit. And so I told him, hey, I'm 11 weeks pregnant. I am going to go back to school, but I'm not going to graduate on time. I'm going to have to miss a semester, come home, and then graduate late. And he kind of sits back, and he's very quiet and reflective. And you could tell he was really choosing what to say. And man, did he ever nail it. And what he shared with me, what my parents shared with me, demonstrated for me the love of my Heavenly Father. Like, this is what it looks like. When you step on your poncho and you fall, you make a bad decision. This is what unconditional love does. And this is what unconditional love says. He said to me, he said, Laura, we love you. And nothing you could ever do will separate you from that love. And I was like, I'm choked up now. And so that's what I want to be as a parent. That's what I want to be as a human, is all of that, goodness. My brother, hugely supportive during that time. I'm surrounded by awesome people.
I love that story. So, couple of connections more. So I'm also Catholic. I was the class of 2000. And I met my wife as a reader at the Catholic campus ministry. And I saw her standing in the back of the church, like the extra area. And I literally was up there reading and was looking out, like you're supposed to look out, and saw her. And I was like, oh, I need to meet her. And then I wasn't able to, because I had to wait till church was over to process out of Mass. And then I saw her 2 days later on campus. just happened to see a friend outside of a building walking between classes and then looked over and said, oh, that was the girl I saw at church. And then I said, oh, you were at the chapel on Sunday. She said, you were the reader. And I was like, yeah. And then that was like the rest is history. Interesting point though is I said, I'm taking you out on Friday. She said, you are? And I said, yeah. And then I had to go to class and I said, hey, do you have a boyfriend? She goes, kinda. And I called her that night and I said, I can't take you out on Friday. She goes, why? And I said, because it's clear to me you have a boyfriend. I said, you have to decide whether you rather have a boyfriend or go out with me. And she called me back and said, I just broke up with my boyfriend. Her boyfriend went to West Point.
What? Look at these connections. Well, I feel like that was a good decision on her part.
You might know him. I'm not going to tell you his name.
Okay. Yeah. At least not on an interview.
But anyway, isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
No, I love it. I love your story. So you have so many pearls of wisdom there. So the question would be, if you could travel back in time, I love the movie Back to the Future. You had a time machine. You could travel back to your younger self. Let's say like that 1996 self or 97, whatever it was. And you could say, Laura, here's some advice from your older self to help guide you along your journey. What advice would you give to yourself?
I would tell myself to be myself. And again, it does sound a little bit cliche. I think one of the common phrases we're hearing now that are very popular is this concept of you are enough. And I disagree. I am not enough. I will never be enough. That's why I need God. I boast in my weakness. When I started at West Point, I wasn't prepared for the type of stress that I was going to encounter. I have always been really driven to perform and achieve. And I was very young. I was immature. I wasn't prepared for the extent to which it would influence me, shape my subconscious programming, shape my mental models, that everything about my life would be judged and evaluated, and that performance would become essentially the source of my sense of self-worth. And so through that experience at West Point and some trauma that I experienced there, I learned subconsciously that violation is the price, that stress is the price. If there's an outcome you want to create, if there's an accomplishment you want to achieve, if there's a goal that you're seeking, the price for that outcome, achievement, or goal is stress, is violation, is, and by violation, I mean anything between just, violating my own boundaries and saying yes when I really wanted to say no, or, all the way to something that is harming my person, violating my person or my health. So everything on that spectrum from like mildly irritated to like full on, this is not okay. But I thought that was normal. And that was what I learned at West Point. One of the many things I learned at West Point. There was a lot of good I learned at West Point too. But that, I think, was really, it really shaped my mental model. And so I created stress because I expected it. I thought it was a normal part of achieving what I wanted to achieve. And so I learned to be whatever my environment required me to be. So I developed this sort of chameleon identity in a way that was unhealthy, because certainly all of us evolve based on our context. We change, a little bit here and there based on the environment that we're in. That's normal. What I'm describing is dysfunctional and unhealthy, where I was essentially wearing a mask, not like the masks we're wearing now because there's a global pandemic right now, but I sort of hid who I really was and tried to be what my environment expected and required me to be. And that inauthenticity that I was not consciously aware of, I think is what harmed my health. I mean, I had some health challenges for most of my adult life, really until very recently, when I started to live in alignment with my values and my talents and my gifts and my skill set, and what I'm innately like, what I enjoy doing, and where I can be of service to others. All of us have a unique way that we were designed to be of service to others. And when you try to be something other than what you are, you'll never optimally serve, and you'll never be optimally fulfilled or happy. Your life will be in many ways devoid of meaning, because you're chasing outcomes that really don't mean anything to you. They're just what you think other people expect. So that's what I would tell my younger self is, don't do that, is be who you are. God designed you and gifted you with specific talents. And he meant for you to use those talents to be of service to others. So stop trying to be someone that you're not in an unhealthy way, and just be who you are. And that's the best way that you can find meaning, experience ease and peace and joy instead of stress and overwhelm and ill health.
I can relate with doing something, making decisions that are not true to myself, and having to, that feeling inside that you really need to check yourself, your gut, because it's out of alignment with your values and your beliefs. And there's so many instances where it's not that I regret it. It's just that I wish I didn't have to go through that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And if I could have learned that sooner, I would have saved myself and people I care about from a lot of pain.
But this is the beauty of it. This is what I really think, that we as humans, we don't have to be perfect, but knowing that we come with everything, flaws and alls and imperfections and our strengths, that's what makes us beautiful. It's the journey, it's the life experiences that we share. It's that you could see in the story that you shared earlier about how your parents shaped you and what they said to you when you needed to hear the most, to just be reminded how much you were valued, was to give you all that encouragement, to remind you, like, yeah, we got you, and no matter what you do, it would never change the way we think about you. And that kind of love is incredible, that you got to experience that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So my question is this: what superpower do you wish you had?
Oh, healing, hands down. My kids asked me this like 5 or 6 years ago, where, they're, well, maybe longer than that now, because they were in elementary school, and they are a sophomore in college and a junior in high school now. So that would, what would your superpower be? Oh, what would your superpower be? Hands down, I would want healing powers. I would want the ability to help someone identify what is broken in them, whether in their psychology or in their physiology, and help them to heal that. So that, hands down, that one, I already know. It's the reason I founded my business.
When you were in Afghanistan, if you had become a prisoner of war, and it was very clear you were going to be spending the rest of your life as a prisoner of war, but the person in charge of the prison was nice enough to say to you, listen, I'm going to get you one book, but this is the only book you're going to have for the rest of your life. What book would you bring with you or have them go get for you?
My first compulsion to answer is the Bible, because I feel like, especially given those circumstances, being spiritually nourished would be really important for my survival, for my grit, for my continued commitment to my values under those circumstances. But I'm a total book nerd. Like, I love to read, I'm a total nerd. Like, it's one of my, I also like watch birds, and I cross stitch, and, so the nerd is strong with this one. And I know this isn't a book, it's a series of books. But if I had the opportunity to ask for a book other than the Bible, it would be the Codex Alera series by Jim Butcher. And the reason why is, well, there are multiple reasons why. I love the characters. Their banter is so believable. The villains are so like awful, and the heroes are so real and true that it like optimal as possible. I mean, I can't stop myself from being an optimist, even though I have experienced some life events that could lead me to believe otherwise. And that's what I enjoy about that series. The good guy wins. Like, I just ruined it for you. The good guy wins. And I need the good guy to win because I have to believe the good guy will win. And so it's not only is it interesting and stimulating and a really fun read, also the good guy is a good guy and the good guy wins. And that matters to me.
That is so cool. I've never heard of that. I have to go check that out.
It's a really good series. It's my favorite series. I've read it 3 times.
Speaking of good and bad characters, what are habits or beliefs that shaped you to who you are today?
2. First is happiness is a decision. So this comes, actually both of them come from the influence of my dad. My dad would say that all the time, happiness is a decision. Or he would change the happiness out, like, boredom is a decision. When teenagers are bored, and I'm bored. And he's like, boredom is a decision. You could always choose something else. And so the word that I have chosen to really direct my life, my husband and I had this conversation several years ago when we were in a really rough just period of our lives right after I transitioned out of the Army. His word is focus. My word is choose. I always have the ability to choose which of my thoughts I believe. And I think that comes from that concept of happiness is a decision. And one of the turning points in my life was 3-4 years ago now, when I couldn't get happy. And I really struggled with this because happiness is a decision. I should be able to just choose it and have that be my experience. And during that period of time, I couldn't choose happiness. But because of all of the positive influence that so many amazing people have had on me, and I think, some innate God-given gifting with just a little bit of good Irish stubbornness that some people call grit. I call Irish stubbornness. I was not willing to accept that this is just what life was like. Well, you're in your late 30s, your body's starting to break down, your hormones a little imbalanced. That's not abnormal. Well, of course you don't feel good. You're a CrossFitter. No wonder you're in chronic pain. All of these types of things. I was unfulfilled. I was experiencing what can only be described as existential angst. I was not living into my purpose. I was out of alignment with my values, and I was sick and I was exhausted. And so when I decided that I was going to investigate what's really going on here, I was not willing to accept that this was just normal, that feeling awful is normal all the time. That was really a turning point for me. So when I say happiness is a decision, I also recognize that mental health and the depression and anxiety that comes from hormone imbalance and food sensitivities and GI pathogens and other gut health issues, the microbiome is a real thing, people. And so when I battled with myself about, look, happiness is a decision, buck up, little camper, and it wasn't working, it really caused me to dig in and find out what was going on so that I could get back to a place where I have energy, I feel healthy, I feel like myself, and happiness can be a decision because there's still a battle going on for our minds. And then that leads to the second quote or habit or belief. So again, heavily influenced by my dad, who is a career military historian. He also taught at West Point twice. So I was born there, and then I went to middle school there the 2 times that he was on the faculty. So I was always around his historianness. And so when we would go to Gettysburg, one of his favorite characters of all of history is John Buford, who on the Battle of Gettysburg, the first day, the space for time, the decision to lead a delaying action for, to just slow the Confederates down until the rest of the Union forces could get there. And before he went into that battle, he said this famous quote, "Do not take counsel from your fears." And that's one of the things that has driven my life. The first time I heard that quote, I think I was in middle school. Da was talking about Gettysburg. And I really connected with it, that like, it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to feel fear. I'm afraid literally every day, all the time. Like I'm always doing something that scares me, but do it anyway. Do it afraid. Don't take counsel from those fears because they might not be telling you the truth. And I think that's a really important way that I was influenced.
So this entire podcast, if we had one theme, it would be living your best life. And you've given so many great pieces of advice for doing that. If you only had one piece of advice you could just pass on to whoever, your children or the people listening, and you say, this is the one piece of advice for living your best life, what would it be?
Give yourself permission to rest. Get good rest. The name of my business is Strength and Shield Coaching. So named because the Lord is my strength and my shield. I am not the source. I am not the source of my strength. I am not the source of my influence. I am not the source of any of my talents or gifts. And I am not the source of my safety or security. The Lord is that for me. So that's what my business is named after, because I need the constant reminder that I can rest. And I see this a lot with high-performing women. We're about stuff. We've got goals. We've got stuff to do. We got people to serve. We got people we love that we want to be around and be there for. And so the temptation is to just fill your calendar with stuff. And I'm guilty of this. If my husband is listening to this down the hall, I guarantee he's smirking right now because he's like, sometimes you need to take your own advice, woman. But giving yourself permission to rest can be really challenging for those of us who are on a mission. But it's so important that we do rest and that we get good rest, mental rest, physical rest, where you're getting regular, good, consistent sleep. Sleep will change your life, man. But also, it's about the permission. So many of us base our sense of self-worth or our value on what we achieve, how much we accomplish, how well did we perform. And that's a lie. It's false. Our value is innate. It has nothing to do with whether or not we complete every task on our to-do list or whether we accomplish or don't accomplish XYZ goal. Your value is innate. You are loved. You are so loved. So exhale. Give yourself a day off once a week. Go to bed at 10. I have a good friend of mine, very dear friend of mine. He's also an entrepreneur. He leads Diligent Plans. And he talks about like, oh, I'm up until 3 a.m. every night. I'm like, first of all, I don't know how you do that. I would be a crazy person by like day 2 of doing that. On the one hand, I admire the drive, but on the other hand, I'm like, how much more productive would you be if you just rested and let yourself get good, healthy sleep? So I love him, but we could have this banter. Anytime he texts me after like 9 o'clock, he's like, I know you're not going to get this until the morning, but I'm sending it anyway. So I give him crap when I get a 3 a.m. text about, his website upgrade. And I'm like, dude, I'm asleep. You should be too. When I write him back in the morning, it's so, so important. So there's the physiological aspect of it, the physical, having good sleep hygiene, having a routine to prepare your body for sleep that is consistent every night. And then also giving yourself some time off. Every week, you just take a day to let your brain and your body rest, because you're worthy of love, you're worthy of rest, and anything that you would do on that other day or, into the wee hours of the night, they're not the source of your value.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And that is something I cherish. I know Dan understands this about me, that managing my time and energy is super important to me. And if I feel that I've needed to take a mental, a physical break from work, whatever, I will just be so happy to chill on out, take a nap, take a walk, read a book. Giving yourself permission is huge because a lot of people feel that they have to be more productive, and that's actually counterproductive. With that, I do want to thank you so much, Laura, for your time. It was such a pleasure, and you shared so many, many golden nuggets of wisdom that I think that the audience will love. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Ivy. I've really enjoyed being here with both of you.